Going to discuss about development of efficient VLSI architecture for multiple disease diagnosis based on biomedical images. Yeah, this is one of my research scholars recently submitted this particular research topic. We have done the detailed analysis of multiple disease diagnosis based on biomedical images, and we worked on the VLSI architectures. So today I'm going to share the particulars of this particular research work. So the outline of my presentation will be, first we will see the introduction, then the detailed literature review we will see, and then development of how we develop efficient wavelet based method, and then development of one of the important classifier called modified support vector machine, and VLSI architecture of configurable support vector machine classifier. And we'll see what are all the conclusions of this work, and future scope, what we can do, and finally the references. Yeah. So often we need to understand why do we go for computer-aided diagnosis. All times a specialized doctor may not be available in every region, and required to have early detection for fast growing diseases. So at this point, the CAD, the computer-aided diagnosis systems, they will assist the medical expert in an accurate diagnosis. So a humble effort and a humble beginning was done in this area by us also. The CAD systems are based on the principle of content-based image retrieval systems, where the system tries to find similar cases relevant to the test case. In computer-aided diagnosis, we have processed the biomedical images, and the obtained results are served as a diagnostic tool for the medical practitioners during the disease diagnosis. So all the biomedical images generally contain most important information related to the shape, color, and texture of the image, and extraction of these features have good number of applications, like identifying the state of the disease, whether the disease is in the early stage or in the advanced stage, like that, and detect the defects in the tissues. So in this research work, we considered only 3 diseases. One is glaucoma, another disease which we had taken is pneumonia, and melanoma. These are the 3 diseases that were considered. And glaucoma, most of us know, this is a kind of retinal disease which damages the optic nerve gradually, and it cannot be revitalized. So it may lead to irreversible vision loss. So it's quite silent thief. So care has to be taken for such disease. So glaucoma is one of the leading cause for irreversible blindness, which occurs with increase in intraocular pressure. And there are several tests for detecting the glaucoma. Their tonometry is one, and gonioscopy, and mainly we concentrate on fundoscopy or ophthalmoscopy. So this is nothing but a examination of a dilated eye for shape and color of optic nerve. And other tests that does exist are visual field tests and corneal patchimetry. So out of all these, we have particularly considered fundoscopy test for the glaucoma detection. Fundus images obtained from fundoscopy are used, and on the extreme left hand side you can see a healthy eye, and on the right hand side you may observe the glaucomatous eye. So the normal images are taken from the particular database mentioned here called Drive, and the glaucomatous images are taken from a particular database called the STARE database. So extreme left-hand side, you may see the healthy eye, and on the right-hand side, the eye that got affected with glaucoma. Yeah, another disease which we have considered is the pneumonia. So this is an infection that inflames the air sacs in one of the lungs or both lungs. So majorly children below 5 years and people older than 65 years are more prone to this disease. So you may observe here the normal air sacs, and yeah, here is a fluid filled air sacs. So these are quite dangerous, the fluid filled air sacs. That leads to infection, and that may cause severe problem also. So pneumonia is mostly misdiagnosed, as its symptoms are quite similar to common cold. Yeah, so for pneumonia diagnosis, multiple tests are available, like blood test, chest X-ray testing, and pulse oximeter, spectrum test, and CT scan, and fluid culture can be done. So on the left-hand side, you may see a normal chest X-ray, and on the right-hand side, pneumonia chest X-ray is visible to you. Yeah, these are the chest X-ray images of lungs. The normal chest X-ray being on the left side, and on the right side you may observe the chest X-ray of pneumonia. And another disease which we have considered is the melanoma disease. The melanocytes, they are responsible for this melanoma. What are these? These are the cells that protect the deeper layers of the skin. When they are exposed to sunlight, they form a brown pigment called melanin on the skin. The uncontrollable growth of melanocytes, that leads to skin tumors. So there are two kinds of tumors, non-cancerous, which are called benign melanoma, and cancerous tumors are called malignant melanoma. So the melanoma appears to be pigmented skin lesions. These PSL images are widely used for skin cancer diagnosis by the dermatologists. The PSL images are obtained by non-invasive techniques such as dermatological photographs, which are nothing but the clinical images through demoscopy. And on the left side, you may observe a non-melanoma demoscopic image, and whereas on the right-hand side, you observe a malignant melanoma demoscopic image. Yeah, these three diseases are considered in our work. Yeah. And yeah, feature extraction plays an important role. Before going to the literature survey, just I want to highlight the feature extraction and the need for feature extraction. Different biomedical images have different description of the patterns. So the description of the object is called the feature of an image. So feature of an image is nothing but the description of the object. So a single feature may not be sufficient to recognize a single object. So obtaining a set of features which can describe an object as well as distinguish an object from others is called a feature vector. So we'll make use of feature vector in order to recognize an object. So this method of simplifying the number of resources required to describe a large set of data accurately and also helps in to discriminate the object from others is called the process of feature extraction. So this is one of the important steps that we use in our computerized diagnosis. So different types of input data have different types of properties, whatever may be the domain. The transformation of the data into a description is called feature extraction. The feature extraction is the conversion of the description of input data into a numerical value. And so why do we go for feature extraction? Is it is used to eliminate the redundant information, and it compact the relevant information into a feature vector. The features are classified into the structural and texture features. So what are structural features? The structural features are related to the shape and color, whereas the texture features are the intensity based features, which are the spatial variation of pixel intensity. So we may adopt either structural feature based diagnosis or texture features. So for structural feature based diagnosis, in the case of glaucoma, the disc, the eye disc, rim and cup areas of the retina, disc of the retina, rim of the retina and cup areas of the retina are considered as the structural features of the glaucoma. Whereas in pneumonia case, area of lung and area of opacity are considered as the structural features. In the case of other disease, melanoma, asymmetry, borders, color, and diameter, these are chosen as the structural features. So to extract the structural features, appropriate and accurate segmentation techniques are required, which are dependent on the modality of the images. So we need segmentation techniques which are dependent on the modality of the images. When it comes to textural feature based diagnosis, in the case of glaucoma, discontinuities in the intensities of retina are considered as the textural features. In the case of pneumonia, intensity of opacity is taken as the textural feature. In the melanoma disease, high textural changes in PSL images is considered as the textural feature are considered. The textural details are non-stationary signals. So what is meant by non-stationary signals is that they vary with respect to time. Non-stationary signals, stationary signals means they won't vary with respect to time, whereas the non-stationary signals, they vary with respect to time. So to analyze this signal, it is required to have a transformation in both time and as well as frequency domain. And to extract the textural features, it is required to have fine resolution at some regions, and we may require coarse resolution at other regions. So this requirement of fine resolutions at some regions and coarse resolution at other regions led to the wavelet theory, and which has flexible approach with variable window sized transformation technique. So I think most of us are aware of this concept of Fourier transform. What it does is it converts a time domain signal into a frequency domain signal. And just let us revisit short time Fourier transform, STFT, short time Fourier transform. And in short time Fourier transform, the time frequency localization depends on the size of the window. So you may observe this is the narrow window. Yeah, and narrow window is shown here, and this is a wide window. And in the wide window, the good frequency localization is possible, but as far as time is considered, as we are getting a good frequency localization, we will get poor time localization. This is obvious because time and frequency, they are inversely related. And when it comes to the narrow window, you will get good time localization. Good time localization is possible, and poor frequency localization. So So when we want both good frequency localization and good time localization, the STFT fails, because we should have a varying width window size, so that we can meet both requirements of good frequency localization and good time localization. So we need such variable width window, so that we may get a good good frequency localization and as well as good time localization. So that's the reason why we will go for a transform called wavelet transform, which uses a variable length window. So this and the narrower windows are more appropriate at high frequencies, and wider windows are more appropriate at low frequencies. Why do we require variable length windows? Just now we discussed that narrower windows are more appropriate at higher frequencies, and wider windows are more appropriate at low frequencies. So a signal with 3 frequency components at varying times is shown in this plot. And wavelet theory, as we said, so what is wavelet? A function that waves about and below the x-axis with the following properties of varying frequency, limited duration, and 0 average value. So this is in contrast to sinusoids used by Fourier transform FT, which have infinite duration and constant frequency. So you observe here, duration, they may get extended up to infinite duration and it has a constant frequency, whereas wavelet has varying frequency and limited duration and 0 average value. And there are different types of wavelets. There are many different wavelets. For example, a Haar wavelet, and the other one is Morlet and Debauchees. So these are the 3 kinds of wavelets. And we may use some basis functions for the wavelets, using wavelet. And so we need a classifier in computer aided diagnosis. So it plays an important role, the classifier. So the use of content-based image retrieval system and computer-aided diagnosis system has improved the disease diagnosis. In CAT system, or when a physician diagnosing a particular patient is interested in finding similar case relevant to the case in hand, called a trained cases. So the trained information is mutually helpful to both the physician and the system to arrive at an informed decision on test cases for better diagnosis about the patient's health condition. So hence classification plays a major role in detection and diagnosis, which involves 2 important steps. So what are the 2 important steps are? We want to extract the key feature and the classification of key features into normal or abnormal features. So now why do we go for the hardware implementation, FPGA implementation or FPGA technology? Is the diagnosis system generates different parameters for different diseases that are dynamic in nature and to be programmed parallelly. In real time, these are achieved using FPGA. See, your software-based approach, there is, it is like sequential in nature, software execution like C, C++, MATLAB, or most of the programming languages that we use for programming, they are sequential in nature. So one after the other, they gets executed. And whereas hardware implementation is concurrent. So they can be programmed parallelly. So you may achieve good speed in hardware implementation. So in real time, these are achieved using FPGA. So the following factors of CAD lead to FPGA implementation. Yes.
Sir, can you stop this annotation, sir?
No, I
Somebody is
actually, somebody, I think I didn't keep the annotation. Just what I did is only the marker I have highlighted. But
somebody writing this.
unfortunately, this is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's coming.
Yes, sir.
Annotate, stop, annotate is.
In options.
Yeah, I got annotate.
Yes, sir.
Mouse select text, draw. Yeah, clear. I'll say clear all drawing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Clear my
Thank you,
drawing
sir.
and clear viewer drawing. Okay, right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, sir.
See, even I want to stop that. I thought some problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the FPGA implementation has several advantages. FPGA is dynamically configurable semiconductor device, and reconfigurability of logic blocks and reusability of the FPGA makes it more and more advantageous. Like you can reconfigure the logic blocks, you can reuse.
Sir?
Yeah.
If you want to write, you can write, sir. You
Yeah,
stop
no
annotation to others. Others, sir. Two options are there, sir.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes.
yeah. So FPGA has greater advantage. Two important features are reconfigurability and reusability. Yeah, it basically like an EPROM, erasable programmable read-only memory. You can program your FPGA, erase it, and reuse it again for other application. So that's the greater advantage you have. In ASIC, you don't have that because the functionality is fixed. Once you programmed the application specific integrated circuit, you cannot make use it for some other applications. So FPGA has that greater advantage. And parallel execution with dedicated paths and inbuilt memory blocks makes FPGA technology as a suitable one, and compatible to hard core processor and soft core processor. See, in FPGA, you have an advantage of soft core processor, like an embedded processor can be a soft core, and then you may use that soft core processor for your programming, and it makes your implementation so easy, and less computing power compared to the digital signal processing chips. And hard IP, intellectual property blocks are compatible with the FPGA. Like you have a coordinate rotational digital computer. As most of you are aware, in MATLAB and other programming languages, you have built-in functions of like sine, cosine. Yeah, if I want to implement a discrete cosine transform, see, I require a cosine function. They are not like built-in functions in our hardware description languages, which are used to program your IC chips like FPGA or ASIC. But in the FPGA, you have in the Xilinx or other ISC, integrated software environment or integrated simulation environment, you have a IP core like CARDIC or math functions like sine. All trigonometric functions are the part of this IP core. So the user need not develop his own cosine or sine function. So that's what the advantage, that is what an IP core is. Hard intellectual property blocks are compatible with the FPGA. And the controllability of the inputs and outputs at the hardware level. That means controllability means I'll be able to change my input, and I'll be able to observe what I'm obtaining at my output, whether a logic 0 or a logic 1, and able to control at the hardware level. And time to market by testing an idea or concept. So hence, you may, when you do a VLSI implementation, so because of these reasons, we have chosen FPGA technology as our implementation technology. And when it comes to the literature review, you observe for the disease diagnosis, there are many classifications, like software-based classification, under which you will find classification of glaucoma, melanoma, pneumonia classification. These 3 disease classification that does exist. And for hardware-based classification, particularly support vector machine classification, SVM classification, this is what we had observed in the literature survey. And this is what the summary of the literature survey, that for the glaucoma identification method, and just we tabulated a few literature survey observations here. We, in the first one, texture energy features with 5 wavelet families, in which they use the support vector machine classifier, and the accuracy of diagnosis that they had achieved is 93.3%. And when texture based features and the SVM classifier are considered, the accuracy got reduced like 74% only. And the feature that was taken, wavelets with cup to disk ratio features are taken on the same SVM with the same support vector machine, 96% accuracy got achieved. CDR, alone CDR, the third one is wavelets with CDR, the fourth one is cup to disk ratio feature alone. And when we use SVM, the accuracy that was obtained is 98.12. And similarly, CDR with thresholding and thresholding classifier and so on, you may observe that a combination, a hybrid classifier like a least square minimization combined with the support vector machine classifier. So it's a hybrid classifier where two classifiers are combined, least square minimization and support vector machine, and they have achieved 98.33% accuracy. Optic disc and cup segmentation and using k-means clustering classifier, a 92% accuracy is achieved. This is related to a particular disease. The first disease called glaucoma identification method. And when it comes to melanoma identification method, in this case, gray level co-occurrence matrix GLCM features are taken into account in the first research paper, and then MLP multi-layer perceptron classifier they are used and achieved a 92% accuracy. When features like mean standard deviation, skewness, contrast, energy, and homogeneity, and using ANN classifier, they achieved 86.6%. With directional filters, 91% can be achieved. And GLCM, that is gray level co-occurrence matrix features, and others has done the neural network implementation. Here, multi-layer perceptron is the first one, and same GLCM features and neural network implementation. They got a 97.5% accuracy for cancerous disease, and 96.5% accuracy for non-cancerous disease. And GLCM and area, perimeter, mean density, standard deviation, when these features are extracted and classifier is neural network, then they got 87.5 and so on. So you may observe that based on the features that you have considered, that is asymmetric border color differential and the type of classifier, you are going to get the variation in the accuracy. The types of features that you have considered and the classifiers, a classifier you have chosen is going to play a key role in diagnosing the disease. And for the pneumonia identification, Haar wavelet energy features and neural network is taken, and Haar wavelet energy feature like other one, and K nearest neighbor and Navy basis classifier, they gave 93 and 96 accuracy. And Gabor filtered mean and variance, when these features are taken, you got a 94.82. So this summarizes what are all the existing pneumonia identification methods and what features are taken into account and which classifier is used and how much percentage of accuracy was achieved. So this is a brief literature review that gives an idea. So why we consider this is based on this. What is the observation is that yeah, none of the methods. Is it possible to have a single classifier for identifying all the three diseases with good accuracy? That is what the question. Yeah, can I achieve good accuracy and with a single classifier for all the three, like pneumonia, melanoma, and glaucoma? For all the three, can I have a single classifier that gives a good accuracy? So for that purpose, these are identified existing support vector reduction techniques. You may see that there is a k-means clustering based reduction and the error rate while reducing the support. See, this is an important one. As we reduce the number of support vectors, we may quickly converge and we may save more time. And yeah, so in this particular tabular form, all the existing support vector reduction techniques are tabulated, and the error rate while reducing the support vectors is shown. Yeah, so Nobel and Daniel, 1988, support vectors 31, they claimed exact simplification of support vector by row reduced echelon form. They got very less error rate while reducing the support vectors. And the methodology that they have adopted is modification of Lagrange multiplier after removal reduced support vectors to get accuracy. Yeah, and there are many good number of support vector implementations on FPGA that does exist, and the techniques that are used are given. Hybrid classifier like k nearest neighbor is combined with the support vector machines. Those who are working in the VLSI area, they are very much aware of the resources, FPGA resources, field programmable gate array. Every field programmable gate array consists of some kind of registers, lookup tables. LUT means lookup tables, block RAMs, black random access memory. These are the resources that are available inside the FPGA. So you take any FPGA, so the registers mainly are responsible for storing of the data. Black ROMs are there, lookup tables, LUTs for logic implementation. So these are the common resources that are available. And yeah, you may observe that the name of the FPGA is Xilinx is the name of the vendor, and Artix 7 is a kind of FPGA, an advanced FPGA. Similarly, Vertex 5 is the name of the FPGA. Xilinx is the vendor. Yeah, Altera is again another FPGA player, and Stratix 3 is the FPGA that was used. And you may observe that how much percentage of accuracy that is being achieved. So you observe that using the technique of parallel multiplied and pipelined adder for the support vector machine classifier implementation, they are able to get a good percentage accuracy of 98.96. But you observe, yeah, the kind of resource utilization is also a little bit high. Yeah, so you got a little bit high in the percentage utilization of lookup tables. And you may observe what are all the existing SVM implementations. Yeah, so what are all the observations that we can take from the literature are, it is observed that there exists both software and hardware implementation to diagnose different diseases. Here, the limitation of these techniques are different methods are to be adopted for different disease classification and restricted to one disease at a time with a little bit compromise in the accuracy. And texture feature plays a vital role in classification of the considered disease. Hence, there is a scope to introduce novel method to diagnosis multiple diseases on a single platform using wavelet-based texture feature. And a support vector machine, SVM classifier could achieve better performance compared to other classifier due to the non-linear separable data samples. So in SVM classifier, there is a trade-off between accuracy and computation time in classification. So FPGA implementation of SVM has not achieved significant accuracy as that of software implementation. So there is a necessary for better hardware architecture with accuracy compatible to the software accuracy. So hence we may propose some VLSI architectures and may try to implement the same to get a better accuracy. And though there exists software and hardware implementation for classification of diseases, there is a necessity for efficient classification approach to diagnosis multiple diseases based on extracting the textual feature which do not vary with modality. So why we need to consider textural features is that they don't vary. The textual features do not vary with modality. According to the state of art, the exact feature extraction and classification, they are very important in computer vision application. As the two phases require huge amount of data, there is need for efficient hardware architecture to reach real-time application. So an efficient hardware architecture with accurate classification, optimized area and delay is required for real-time diagnosis. So this is the motivation behind this. And what objectives that can be achieved through this work are, the primary objective is to develop an efficient method of classification that is suitable for different modalities, and a graphical user interface based disease classification approach was developed, and real-time implementation of tunable hardware architecture to detect multiple diseases, and a configurable memory map is developed to support the specification of tunable classifier. Design and implementation of radial basis function, RBF kernel-based SVM classifier. Design of an efficient multiplier with less hardware utilization. Development of enhanced range exponent function for CORDIC. This is coordinate rotational digital computer that supports mathematical functions like sine, cosine, exponential functions. All these are part of this CORDIC IP core of Xilinx. Xilinx has a IP core, intellectual property core. So the user need not write his own user-defined functions for exponential function like e power x, cosine function, or trigonometric function like cosine, sine, tangential. All these user need not write his own functions. So they will be part of your IP core. And development of a novel support vector reduction technique to optimize the hardware utilization. These are the objectives. And now we may clearly give you a problem statement of design and development of an efficient VLSI based real-time system to analyze and classify multiple diseases based on digitized biomedical images. However, this design is extremely challenging owing to the following condition. So whatever the design you propose should have accurate feature extraction suitable for multiple diseases. An automated system has to be deployed to minimize the human errors in disease diagnosis. And quick computation time is another challenge, accuracy and area. So these are the major challenges in developing the VLSI based CAD system for the disease diagnosis. And yeah, we'll discuss development of an efficient wavelet based method. So what is the methodology that we adopt for multiple disease classification is, first we'll take the biomedical source images. We'll take the biomedical images which consist of features that do not vary with modality. As the biomedical image consists of rich information related to the clinical evidence, such as shape, color, and texture, as we discussed earlier. Among these, shape and color features vary with different diseases. Therefore, textual features are considered to identify the discontinuities in the biomedical images. The textural changes in the biomedical image, they are non-stationary, as we discussed earlier. To extract the finer details of abnormalities present in tissues, the non-stationary signal have to be transformed in both time and frequency resolution. Okay, histogram equalization is nothing but an image enhancement technique which enhances the dynamic range of a biomedical image. So hence, we may go for the biomedical image that suffers from low contrast images. Normally the biomedical images suffer from low contrast. So in order to spread out the intensity of the image throughout the dynamic range evenly, we may go for a technique called histogram equalization. And then we want to extract the DWT detailed components, as we discussed the discrete wavelet transform. We will discuss in detail what is the need for DWT. As we already discussed, to extract finer details of abnormality present in tissues, and non-stationary signal have to be transformed in both time and frequency resolution. So we require both time resolution and as well as frequency resolution. Hence, this requirement of transformation has a simulated wavelet-based feature extraction. So the wavelet-based feature extraction is needed for both time and frequency resolutions. So then we will go for feature selection, and there is a step called Z-score normalization, and there is a classifier training, and that generally make the classification of normal and abnormal. When in the classification, the classifier is built with a supervised learning method. In the training, there are two phases. One is the training phase. In the training phase, the hyperplane is built by separating the training samples with maximum accuracy. The parameters generated while making the hyperplane are used in testing phase to classify the test images. The efficiency of the classifier is purely dependent on the features that we extract. And this is the block diagram. So from the block diagram, it is clear that the whole process undergoes two phases. One is what is the first phase is the training phase, and the second one is the testing phase. So that's the reason why you observe that there are two columns. Test image is there, and then histogram equalization, extract, DWT, detailed components, wavelet filter features, the same gets repeated. So you require both the training and as well as testing. Two testing phase and as well as training phase. The significant steps involved in the two phases are, we have to do the pre-processing, then feature extraction, and wavelet feature computation that is used for the detection of the disease. So you may take the input image, three different types of diseases with the three other modalities are considered. So for your retinal disease like glaucoma, 100 retinal fundus images of the retina, 100 demoscopic images of skin, and 100 chest X-ray images of lung. At a total of 300 images are acquired from standard database, as I already shown you the standard data sets. 100 retinal fundus images, out of which 50 are standard normal fundus images from the digital retinal images. For vessel extraction, that is called drive database. We have STAIR database. So from the standard database, the source images are taken. So here you may observe what are all the fundus and dermatoscope images are RGB images. Chest X-ray images are monochrome images. So we have an important step called segmentation. The chest X-ray image contains subjective parts such as shoulder bone, lungs, abdomen region, and a few other unwanted regions which are not particularly useful for the detection of pneumonia. And we will use a technique called histogram equalization, as we already discussed. We'll use the techniques like thresholding, edge detection, and as well as morphological operations. So we'll use all these pre-processing techniques. And yeah, here is the normal chest X-ray image, and when it is applied for histogram equalization, the histogram equalized image is shown in figure 8, figure 9. So we have done an adaptive Gaussian thresholding, and finally a Laplacian edge detection gave the figure 10. And then we have a morphological closing like erosion and dilation, and morphological filling is done, morphological erosion here, as I said. And final segmented image after pixel wise multiplication of figure 1 and 7 is shown in figure 14. So the discrete wavelet transform, as we said that we require both time and frequency resolutions, we are using this. So the discrete wavelet transform, one level DWT decomposition is shown here. So the abrupt changes in the texture of the image indicate the presence of abnormal biological tissues which are available in high frequency components like DH1 and DV1 and DD1, and 3 DH1, DV1 and DD1 are detailed coefficients used for feature vector generation. So you have a analysis and detailed coefficients. So the input image, which is having number of rows and columns, is applied to a high pass filter and low pass filter, and then yeah, they are applied again after downsampling, applied again to a high pass and low pass filters. So that's the reason why here low pass filtered and low pass filtered image LL, LH, low pass filtered again passed through a high pass filter, hence LH. So image passed through a high pass filter, then followed by passed through a low pass filter, that is HL. HH is image first level, it is first it is passed through a high pass filter, then again passed through a high pass filter, which is HH. So the 3 DH1, DV1, DD1 are the detailed coefficients used for feature vector generation. These are used. Okay, and the wavelet based texture feature, total of 6 features, 3 average and 3 energy for each wavelet family are obtained for every image. And the following kind of wavelet families filters are taken: Debachis, used for signal discontinuity, image denoising and feature extraction. Another wavelet family filter is Simlets. It's nothing but modified Debachis wavelet with symmetric behavior and reverse biorthogonal RBIO, and ND and NR are the decomposition and reconstruction filters employed to enhance the high frequency component. The features are extracted using the DWT with the different wavelet family filters like Debachis 3, Simlet 3, DB3, SIM3, reverse bi-orthogonal, RBIO 3.3 and RBIO 3.5 and RBIO 3.7 are used for feature extraction, and their importance in classification of different diseases are evaluated. As I said, support vector machine has a non-linearly separable characteristic. It classifies by constructing a hyperclone which separates the data samples of the two classes. As you observe here, the non-linear SVM can be made into linear SVM by using the kernel trick. So linear SVM with variables, W is nothing but a weight vector, X is the input sample data vector, X is here, weight, W transpose here, W weight vector, X is the input, B is the nothing but the bias, and rho is the width of the margin. So that was shown here. This is one of the important classifier. And the kernel trick, as we said, every data point is mapped into high dimensional space via some transformation. So the transformation that we use is phi x, phi of x, the inner product becomes kxi of xj is this. So transpose and gets multiplied with this, where k is nothing but the kernel function that corresponds to the inner product in some expanded feature space. So there are a few common types of kernel like linear kernel, Gaussian or radial basis function, and polynomial. And the classification function for the nonlinear separable SVM classifier is given by this equation. So you have a data sample vector, V is the bias, and Lagrange multiplier corresponding to each support vector. So if you are doing the diagnosis, you should have some performance metrics. So for that, the confusion matrix is taken, and the class that is taken as normal and abnormal and identified class. Both are normal, identified class and class are normal, true, negative, and yeah, here false positive, abnormal, then abnormal and normal, false negative, and true positive. So the short forms of true negative TNEG, false positive FPOS, false negative FNEG, true positive TPOS is taken. So how you define this sensitivity or true positive rate? It is nothing but the measure of fraction of positives identified correctly, and is given by this equation. True positive rate is TPOS divided by TPOS plus FNEG. That is nothing but false negative. TPOS is true positive. So specificity is another performance metric. It is the measure of number of negatives identified correctly. So SPC is given by this equation. Positive predictive value is another performance metric, or it is also called precision, that determines the fraction of samples that are positive in the group, which has been declared as positive class by the classifier. So PPV is given by this equation, and accuracy is taken as another performance metric. And you have F score is another parameter to bring precision and recall into a single value. So you have F score is 2 multiplied with the product TPR into PPV, where TPR is the true positive ratio and PPV is the positive predict value as mentioned here, divided by true positive rate plus positive predictive value. So numerator you have multiplication and denominator you have addition for the F score. So a MATLAB based implementation is done for glaucoma classification using wavelet feature, and the classifier that is taken as SVML and SVMP and SVM with the random basis function in which alpha is taken, sigma is equal to the value of constant is taken like this, sigma is 0.5. Classification of glaucoma using dB wavelet. This is done using dB wavelet. And this tabular form shows the classification of glaucoma using RBO, reverse biorthogonal 3.3 wavelet, as we already discussed. So you may observe true positive, true negative, false negative, TPR as the true positive rate, specificity, PPV, positive predictive value, accuracy of score, everything is mentioned here. All these performance metrics are taken, and with different classifiers, using different classifier and using dB 3.3 wavelet, the results are tabulated here. And similarly, table 2 shows the various classifiers, and the wavelet quotient is changed here. What's the difference between table 1 and table 2 is, in the second case, table 2, the wavelet coefficient that is taken is reverse biorthogonal 3.3. And table 3 is classification of glaucoma using reverse biorthogonal 3.5. Yeah, whereas the second case is 3.3, whereas here the wavelet quotient is reverse biorthogonal RBIO 3.5 wavelet. And the fourth one is a classification of glaucoma using reverse biorthogonal 3.7. We will discuss in detail what are the observations from, we just shown these 4 tables, and from these 4 tables, that what we can observe is summarized here. The wavelet families, we have wavelet families dB 3.3 and simlet dB 3.3 and sim 3.3 are achieving the same classification rate and high PPV. As we already mentioned here, PPV is nothing but positive predictive value. Observe, high PPV is being achieved. That means they are good at predicting the positivity of glaucoma disease. And the tables 2 to 4 shows the family of reverse biorthogonal wavelet filter with high value in TPR, with high value in TPR. And so then we thought, why don't we use a combination of 2 filter features. Combination of 2 filter features, and classifier is SVML and SVMP. Classification of glaucoma using dB 3.3 and reverse biorthogonal 3.3 wavelet filters is shown here. And there is another tabular form. So earlier, what is the difference between the previous 4 tables and this table is, you observe that combination of 2 filter features are taken. Here, the 2 filter features that are taken are dB 3.3 and RBIO 3.3. So this is like a combination of 2 wavelet filter features. And this particular tabular form again shows the combination of 2 wavelet filters, dB 3.3 and RBIO 3.5. And again in 7 you observe that dB 3.3 and RBIO 3.7. You observe almost this particular combination is a good combination that is giving very good results. That's what the observation can be done. So observation made from these tables, the combination of dB 3.3 and RBIO 3.7 features achieved 100% in all parameters for all kernels in classification and glaucoma disease. Performance comparison of SVM classifier with other classifier like K nearest neighbor, KNN, Navy basis, and random forest is done here in this tabular form. Comparison of DB 3.3 and RBIO 3.7 SVM with different classifiers is shown here. And you observe from this particular table, support vector machine and K nearest neighbor classifier is KNN classifier, SVM, KNN classifiers. They are showing better classification compared to other classifiers. That's why they are highlighted like SVM and KNN. They are doing better than the random forest and naive base, NB and RF. That's why they are highlighted here. Yeah, and when it comes to the other disease classification like melanoma classification using wavelet feature, again, DB 3.3 or SIM 3.3 wavelet, you observe the results that got true positive, false positive, true negative, and false negative. And classification of RBIO 3.3 gave the better results when compared with the above table 9. That means you got better wavelet, RBI reverse bi-orthogonal 3.3 wavelet for melanoma. And similarly, RBIO 3.5 is again much better with all classifiers. And yeah, you have classification of melanoma using reverse bi-orthogonal 3.7 wavelet tabulated here. And what are the observation? So you may observe that DB 3.3 and SIM 3.3 filters are giving good classification of non-malignant melanoma samples. That means non-cancerous diseases could be easily identified if I use the two wavelet coefficients DB 3.3 and SIMlet 3.3. Though RBIO 3.3 and RBIO 3.5 wavelet families with 6 features are having good classification, there is less discrimination of significant features between the two classes, and all features are to be selected to obtain maximum accuracy. And RBIO 3.7 with 5 significant features is giving the best performance metrics with 100% in all parameters, considering SVM with linear and RBF kernel tricks are achieving best performance metrics of 100% using RBIO 3.7 with significant features. So this is what the observation that you can do in the case of a melanoma disease. Now, considering the RBI reverse bi-orthogonal 3.7 wavelet average and energy feature further analyzed with other classifiers like K nearest neighbor, Navy basis, random forest, along with SVM of different kernel tricks like linear, polynomial, and RBF kernels with the different sigma values, you may see this tabular form. SVM linear and RBF kernel tricks are giving classification results of 100% in all parameters using the 5 features. Okay, and you may observe that SVML in all these cases, you got good classification results. And when it comes to the third disease, pneumonia, same we did using the wavelet features of DB 3.3 and SIMlet 3.3 and RBIO 3.3 and RBIO 3.5 wavelet and RBIO 3.7 wavelet. So what the observation that can be done is these two combination of Debachi's and RBIO 3.7 are giving good performance with SVM, RBF kernel and linear kernel. So this is you have to try like many combinations. Finally, you may observe that that combination gives you a good accuracy may be taken for your particular disease diagnosis with good accuracy. And yeah, here table 18 is using DB 3.3 and reverse bi-orthogonal 3.7 wavelet. And DB 3.3 and RBIO 3.7 combination are giving maximum classification accuracy of 97.5 and F score of 97.4359. You observe here. So sigma variation is not going to make any much difference here. You observe. The one is with sigma value of 1 and another one is with sigma value of 2. But that doesn't matter. The variation of sigma value 1 and 2 doesn't make much difference. And the feature set that is selected is consisting of 10. Further, these two wavelet selected features are compared with other classifiers like KNN, Navy basis, and random forest, along with SPM, different kernel tricks like linear polynomial and RBF kernel. The classifiers KNN, SVM, and with RBF kernel are attaining maximum accuracy, sensitivity, and F score in the classification of pneumonia. And here you observe the comparison of different classifier accuracy with selected wavelet feature in multiple disease diagnosis. The SVM with RBF kernel with sigma value 1 and 2 are attaining maximum accuracy in all three cases of disease classification. Using wavelet filter DB 3.3, reverse bi-orthogonal 3.7 in classification of glaucoma, pneumonia, and single wavelet RBIO 3.7 in the classification of melanoma disease. So, yeah, in the glaucoma and pneumonia, you may observe that the wavelet filters that are performing much better are DB 3.3 and RBIO 3.7, whereas RBIO 3.7 single wavelet alone, let's say there is no need of combining the other two wavelets quotients. Hybrid wavelet quotient need not be required. RBIO 3.7 alone itself giving good classification in the case of a melanoma disease. This is what the final observation that can be made. And this is the graphical user interface, GUI, that was developed for multiple disease diagnosis. The screen can be shown here, and you have three diseases here, pneumonia, glaucoma, and skin cancer. And you have buttons here like classification and then test image detection buttons, and then exit, GUI for classification of multiple, classification for pneumonia. So you have SVM based classification, support vector machine is clearly shown here, normal 19 and abnormal 1 and total 20, and here abnormal 0 and 20, and accuracy that we obtained here is shown. SVM classifier accuracy for pneumonia test data set. We have given the pneumonia test data set, and finally we got the accuracy as 97.5. And yeah, GUI for selection of test images in multiple diseases. So this is for selecting test images in multiple disease, and wavelet based texture feature extraction and selection can be done here. So you have a button called load image, so we can load the input image. This is the chest X-ray image, and after performing the wavelet transformation, and yeah, and you may select the kind of wavelet also, wavelet quotient. DB3 may be chosen, or RBIO 3.3 may be chosen. So here DB3 is chosen, and after running the GUI, we can clearly observe that the disease that got identified or highlighted is the pneumonia. Pneumonia got detected, and classification is a support vector machine. Here feature extraction, feature selection buttons are also there in the GUI. And this is the classification for glaucoma, wavelet based texture feature extraction. And you observe here fundus image, fundoscopy based image, and DB3 wavelet is given, and the wavelet transformation. After that, you may observe that glaucoma got detected. And this is a MATLAB based GUI that was developed, and these are the results that we got for MATLAB based implementation. So average and energy feature extraction obtained, and the accuracy, as we discussed, is done. And yeah, so just we have not done any modification to the SVM earlier, and then we thought of development of a modified support vector machine. The support vector machine is a supervised learning classifier with variables of weight vector. As we already discussed, SVM tries to design a classifier with maximum distance of separating boundary between two classes. The classifier is built by iteratively changing the weight vector W, B as the bias until classification is accurately done on trained sample. After training, W, B are obtained to build a decision on the unknown sample. And SVM, W is built with a set of support vectors and Lagrange multiplier, already we discussed. Feature vector that influence the position of hyperplane in training phase are called support vectors, and mathematically feature vectors which satisfy the condition are called support vectors. The unknown features that can be determined by a decision function given by this equation. The dimension of the support vector is SV multiplied with M, where M is the size of the feature vector and alpha is the weight. Here you observe alpha is shown. Weight, that is nothing but a Lagrange multiplier for each support vector. Y represents the class label, and bias is a constant, and f of x is an output decision test pattern. The output function f of x is the summation of this, so which is given by this equation. Two novel algorithms can be proposed to reduce the number of support vectors without loss of performance. One is the backward elimination based SVM. Another one is PSO, is a particle swarm optimization and forward selection based SVM. So for classification of like normal and abnormal, two novel algorithms like backward elimination based SVM and PSO and forward selection based SVM. So this is the flow diagram for the development of a backward elimination based SVM reduction method, support vector reduction method. So you can calculate the accuracy with n support vectors. So the number of iterations can be run from 1 to t iteration by removing ith support vector, and you may calculate t for each iteration, update nr support vector, calculate the test accuracy and terminate. So this is what the flow diagram for this. So here are the results of backward elimination SVM in multiple disease diagnosis, and the last column is number of support vectors multiplied with the feature size is given here. And for the three diseases, glaucoma classification, pneumonia classification, and melanoma classification. So what are the observations? The backward elimination SVM based reduction based backward elimination support vector based reduction reduced 5 support vector in case of glaucoma, 6 support vector in case of pneumonia, and 8 support vector in melanoma without compromising in the performance. Yeah, you observe without number of support vectors and feature size. So you observe here 15, this got reduced to 10, whereas here 26 by 10, which in backward elimination support vector machine reduction, 26 got reduced to 20. Similarly, here number of support vectors are 36 by 5, whereas this got reduced to 28 by 5. So observe that we are fixing the feature size. We are not varying the feature size. That's the reason why here 8 and 8, here 10, 10, 5 and 5. What we are reducing is number of support vectors only we are trying to reduce, and feature size remains constant, as you know. And so what are the merits that you can observe? The proposed backward elimination SVM method shows its superiority in reducing the support vector, have least priority for classification. The major drawbacks is with an increase in support, it is difficult to run the number of iterations. And there is a development of PSO based, development of PSO based support vector reduction method. This is the flow diagram for this. And yeah, so you may take in particle swarm optimization. This is basically developed based on the particle swarm optimization. Swarm is nothing but a group of birds flock, and there is a velocity and position analogous to different parameters like performance metric parameter, true positive, true negative, false positive, and false negative. So in the fitness function, you observe that accuracy is taken by this equation, and you can calculate the fitness of each particle, calculate the fitness of all particles. Yeah, P best is the local best, G best is the global best. This is the current fitness value. And current fitness value is compared with the P best. Assign current fitness as new P best and keep the previous P best. Assign best particles and position best P best to get the global best. Calculate the velocity of each particle. Use each particle velocity to update its position. So this is what the flow chart for vector selection using particle swarm optimization. And using this method again, we have done the classification without reduction of the support vector. PSO selected support vectors, accuracy without reduction of the support vectors 100, 97.5 and 100. Accuracy with PSO selected support vectors. As there is a reduction in the number of support vector, you observe that there is a reduction in the accuracy. So you may observe on the extreme right hand side, the last column, error, percentage error in classification. There is a 12.5% error if you want to reduce the support vector. If you want to compromise on the accuracy and want to have the reduction of the support vectors, yeah, then you may go for it. So 12.5%, 20 and 13. So table 23, so what are the observation? PSO alone could not achieve maximum accuracy. So you observe that particle swarm optimization alone is giving less accuracy. 100% accuracy is there, 97.5 here. Here also 100. Whereas when it comes to the PSO based accuracy, this got reduced. So PSO is one of the most influential method for resolving non-smooth global optimization. The main benefit of PSO based approach are simple execution. The only drawback of this method, based on the parameter and initial condition, it may evaluate at the local minima. So as we observed that the PSO alone cannot give good accuracy, so then we thought of developing a PSO with forward selection based support vector reduction method. So combination of PSO with forward selection based support vector machine, this is done. And the forward selection method, flowchart for forward selection method is shown. And the results of the combination of particle swarm optimization and forward selection based SVM. So you observe without reduction 15 by 8 is the number, and with reduction 11 by 8. You observe that the parameters, the performance parameters are not being changed. Even you reduce the support vectors. With reduction also, you are able to get 100% accuracy, and at the same time you are able to reduce the support vectors. Here also, maintaining the accuracy intact. Maintaining the accuracy intact, we are able to reduce the number of support vector from 26 to 18. In a similar manner here, from 36 to 28 in the case of the melanoma disease. So by reducing even the support vectors, we are able to achieve the good accuracy if at all PSO is combined with forward selection based SVM. So here is the summary of this. Comparison of accuracy with the two proposed method. Method 1 is backward elimination and method 2 is PSO and forward selection. The plots are shown here. So SVM has an excellent generalization performance. The two selection algorithms have opened a novel way to reduce the dimensionality of support vector. Experimental results demonstrate that the proposed method can control the trade-off between the number of support vectors and performance of XVM. And here is the VLSI architecture of configurable SVM classifier. So as we discussed that it gives us a real-time implementation and as well as the improvement of performance, speed, hardware implementation. So we thought of developing VLSI architecture for configurable SVM classifier. So the MATLAB implementation phase in MATLAB and in FPGA. So here test vector generation, so input image, pre-processing, extracting DWT, feature selection, normalization, test is the same. Classifier training is here. Alpha, bias, SV and sigma is given, and there is a UART transmitter, and then this is given to VLSI implementation of SVM. And why these two are, we have training phase and testing phase. That's the reason why these two are parallel, and the VLSI implementation of SVM is able to give you normal image classification of normal and abnormal images. And VLSI architecture of RBF kernel based configurable support vector machine classifier is shown here. The training phase executed in the offline MATLAB environment, since different dataset generate varied support vector, alpha values, bias, sigma values, and feature size for the disease for classification. The size of processing element vary with respect to parameters dynamically. So it is required to have a hardware device that can be tunable, flexible, and as well as reconfigurable. Hence, FPGA-based system developed for the desired SVM, all possible design solution can be tested due to the reusability of the FPGA. FPGA integrated circuit provide promising solution to implement real-time systems. So hence, these are chosen. So here is a UART transmitter, UART receiver is there, two dual port RAM, and proposed SVM design block is here. And the VLSI architecture of RBF kernel based configurable support vector machine classifier. The configurable SVM architecture designed in such a way that the architecture adaptively varies with respect to different parameters generated in the training phase, and distantly configured according to the type of disease that is used in multiple disease classification. So what are the parameters required are the number of support vector, number of features, support vector values, feature values, alpha value, input vector, and sigma value. So area and delay efficient carry select adder with variable length technique based multiplier is used. Area efficient extended Cardic block algorithm. All these three are used in the implementation of hardware architecture for RBF kernel based configurable support vector machine classifier. So what are the hardware constraints and specifications that are required? The inputs quantized into number of levels, 32-bit with Q32 format. For a higher range of input values, exponent block, the output is considered as 128. It also increases the resolution of the output value. The number of support vectors restricted to 64 with a maximum of 16 features. Number of support vectors, number of features, number of alpha values, all these are clearly shown here. Range of the input variables is up to 32-bit, and the range of output variables up to 128-bit. Yeah, SVM design block extract the memory map into internal registers. SVM training phase generates support vectors and other parameters to classify the test images. These parameters, as specified in the specification, are then transferred serially through UART. This was shown in the block diagram. Universal, asynchronous, and receiver transmitter transmit module to the dual port RAM. The 00H address of address map gives the start enable signal to start hardware SVM classification, and TE is the test enable signal for the test input. So we have test enable and start enable. So as VLSI implementation consists of only ones and zeros, you may observe that only binary values like 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1 are given. And for 0, 0, no SVM classification operation. For 0, 1 operation with existing support vector and new test vector. 1, 0, it is updating new support vector and other parameter, no classification to start, since it's only updating parameter. Updating new support vector and other parameter with a new test vector, the classification will start since there are new vectors. And yeah, this is the design of RBF kernel based CSVM classifier. The classification, the RBF kernel with Gaussian decision function to compute the output class is given by this equation. So you may observe block RAM, subtractor, multiplier, accumulator, shifter is there, then truncating exponent is there, multiplier, random access memory. There is a comparator for generating greater bits. There is an adder, there is an accumulator. So this is a detailed design block diagram of CSVM classifier. So if I want to implement in hardware or in VLSI, I require number of multipliers, I require number of accumulators, 2's complement is required for negative values, subtractors are required, random access memory is required to store the values, shifters are required, and yeah, truncation to 32-bit is required. So you observe that this much complex is the architecture for CSVM classifier. So for this, the HDL code, hardware description language code is written and it is implemented. The CSVM with RBF kernel based decision functions uses parallel hardware architecture to reduce the delay. Each parallel block consists of 32-bit subtractor, 32-bit multiplier, accumulator, shifter, exponential back to get the final output. So you observe that the hardware implementation or VLSI architecture needs number of subtractors, multipliers, accumulators, shifter, exponential block, all these. The critical blocks are multiplied and exponential back since they occupy more area and delay. To overcome these, an efficient novel 32-bit multiplier is designed. In the architecture, the number of parallel blocks depends on the number of comparable support vector. The reduction in support vector can reduce the area of the design. So here is the design of an efficient 32-bit multiplier. And the results are shown here. Enhanced range exponent function of Xilinx Cardic IP core. In an IP core, the exponential function will be there. The range of exponential block is from -pi/4 to pi/4. That is, what is pi/4? 360 divided by 4. No, so here, sorry, 180/4. This is 180/4, 180/4 and 180/4, which got extended to -66.75 to 66.75. That is what our requirement. So we extended the range of the exponential Cardic block to our requirement. Sine hyperbolic and cos hyperbolic is there. This is done to additional to the Cardic IP core. And this is a hardware flow to implement multipliers of 0.75, hardware flow to implement multiples of other than 0.75. And the FPGA utilization and latency analysis of EREF module. Simulation and hardware implementation of architecture for RBF kernel based SVM classifier is shown here. Complete SV size into feature size, reduced SV size and feature size is shown here. Complete and reduced support vector dimension. And these hardware simulation result for SVM for glaucoma classification with complete support vector machine. Test features are highlighted, support vectors are highlighted. Support vector into feature size is shown here. 15/8, feature size is 8 and support vector 15. Identified as a normal test case here. This is highlighted. And hardware simulation for glaucoma classification with complete support vectors is shown here in this simulation window. And hardware simulation for reduced SVM is highlighted here. In a similar manner, yeah, simulation waveform for glaucoma classification is shown. Hardware simulation result for 40 test images is shown, 20 glaucoma and 20 abnormal. And the hardware simulation results for reduced SVM pneumonia classification. They are done. So you may observe that multiple simulation waveforms for different cases. And finally, the analysis of hardware implementation reduced the SV support vector utilization by maintaining accuracy. You may observe 24.76 lookup table as a logic and slice register. So you got reduction. Hardware utilization of complete and reduced support vector for glaucoma, for pneumonia, and for melanoma. And also, there is a parameter speed up, software latency by hardware latency is taken. Software versus hardware accuracy and speed computations is done. You may observe that with the hardware, we got, accuracy and speed. So accuracy being the same in both the hardware and software, but the latency, you may observe that this got reduced tremendously. This is what the greater advantage of hardware implementation. If I go for a VLSI architecture, you observe that 1913 microsecond and 3.57 microseconds, you got the software latency divided by hardware latency is giving a value of 535.84. So that's such a great improvement in speed or reduction in the latency, in the delay. And the same got the system validated and IP core generation was done. And here is the multiple disease diagnosis validation performed in 3 system models. For pneumonia detection using system model 1, system model 2, and system models 3, and accuracy comparison. And this is for melanoma disease. And a processor called Jing processor is taken, and the IP validation of SV IP validation of soft and hardcore processor was done. And this is a system setup. You may observe that you require a board called Nexus 4 DDR board. Nexus 4 DDR board is there, system setup to validate disease test vector in Nexus 4 DDR board, and output display in Nexus 4 DDR for disease sample. Disease output display in Nexus 4. So you observe this is DISEASED, deceased is done here in the Nexus 4 board. And this is again a system setup in Nexus 4 DDR for classification of non-disease sample. So no disease is the display. You may observe that E, because of the constraint of other LED 7-segment display LED is not available, so it was restricted here. And yeah, the proposed VLSI architecture of a configurable SVM classifier can be used to classify the 3 diseases. Jing processor based IP validation is done. The results are portrayed. The proof of concept for the objectives, the observation from this system are exciting, and it provided same accuracy as that of software implementation with improved speed up in execution of the algorithm. And so we may conclude that PSO and forward selection based SVM performs superior to other methods. Proposed PSO and forward selection method reduce the support vectors to the great extent. The hardware implementation algorithm demand efficient multipliers in order to design efficient multiplier CLSA. GUI-based SVM system validation with test vectors is performed. The proposed hardware implementation of RBF kernel-based SVM achieved to speed up 535.84 and so on for different disease classification of 3 glaucoma, pneumonia, and melanoma respectively. So you may go for a future scope of ASIC implementation, Jing processor driver implementation for lightweight TCP/IP, ASIC implementation of Cardiac IP core, And other diseases like breast cancer, brain tumor, ulcers, and bone cancer can be tested by adopting the proposed architecture. That is what the future scope. These are all the references that were taken for this research work. And these are the journals in which the research work got published. Yeah, and thank you for your interest and patience listening. So with this,
Thank you,
I
sir.
conclude. Any queries, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful talk, sir. Now I request the participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask doubts to sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Unmute your video, sir. You want to take some photos, sir?
Yeah.
Any doubts, sir? Participants? You can post in the chat box also.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can raise your hand.
Yeah.
So that I can unmute your device. You can talk. Anyone is there? No doubts from participant side, sir.
Okay. Good. So
Yeah.
one person.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, one doubt from participant, sir.
Yeah. Please.
Can you please tell the IP cores used in this work?
Yeah. So the IP core, basically, I had explained. One IP core is the CORDIC IP core, Coordinate Rotational Digital Computer. So that CORDIC is a built-in IP core. So actually, the exponent function is available. I told you, like, that range of the exponent is from -π/4 to π/4. But for our application, we require the extended exponential function range. That's the reason why we had done some work related to that, and we have extended that exponential function IP core, and the remaining CORDIC is basically we have used even for the trigonometric functions like cosine and sine functions. For that purpose, these are the main IP cores that we have used.
And one more doubt, sir, from Pravina madam.
Yeah.
Where we can get MRI epilepsy data?
Yeah, that's the difficult one. Like epilepsy standard database is quite difficult for epilepsy. Even I am struggling. Like Hyderabad NIMS, you have to go and sit for the testing. You have to take the approval from the concerned doctors, and then need to try. As she is asking, as per my knowledge, for epilepsy, it's difficult. Like one of my colleagues, very long back, she had taken from Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences, NIMS, in cooperation with the doctors of NIMS, she took some epilepsy-related data. And otherwise, it's difficult. I don't have any epilepsy-related database details.
Yes, sir. Any other doubts? Okay, thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation. And it is a very nice talk, and it is very informative session, sir.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can leave, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, tomorrow morning session will start at 10 o'clock. Dr. Ramasubba Reddy garu from IIT Madras. So, sir will take 2 sessions, morning session as well as afternoon session also. Thank you. Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Will be posted in the WhatsApp group. Please all
Madam?
of you fill that.
Yeah. Feedback link. Today's morning session 1 and session 2. Feedback link will post in the WhatsApp group. So kindly fill it. Okay. Thank you.